Shalom lekulam, and welcome to this third lesson number 3 on the book of Zohar. Today we're going to finish basically explaining the end of the Lilly, and then we're gonna be continuing with the next part called the flower buds. Okay. And the reason we're going to continue with the Lilly in this third lesson, even though we were supposed to start with the flower buds, is because I received some questions about the lessons, the first 2 lessons about the Lilly and the Zohar. And one of the questions was, what are these 42 sivugim? How we can actually visualize these 42 sivugim? Before that, let's do a recap of what we did learn from the previous Zohar lesson. And it was that the Lilly basically has what is called, or is surrounded by 5 rigid leaves. And these 5 rigid leaves are the 10 sefirot, but the 10 sefirot in the form of 5 partzufim. Keter, Chokmah, Bina, Sera, Bina, Malchut, okay? And then after that, what is explained to us is basically the process of how the light reaches from the Sefirah Bina to the Sefirah Malchut, and what is the process that needs to occur in order for that light to reach down to this Sefirah Malchut. And what we're going to see here is basically the story of how Malchut basically is going to receive this light, and what it is that we need to do in order to bring that light, okay? So like always, the first lessons, we're going to start by doing a scanning of some letters to prepare us, to study the book of Zohar. These are names of God that being filled, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna scan like we did before. From, in this case, if you look into your screen, it's gonna be from your, it will be this way, from your right to your left. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a few seconds to scan these names. Okay, now what we're gonna do a prayer before we recite this prayer. I want to make sure that you understand that this prayer was made or was written by the Ari, the Rizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria, and what he actually did was he prescribed this prayer for anyone who is going to study the book of Zohar. Also, right now, what we're gonna do this prayer as a kind of like an intention or Kabbalah to connect us to the light of the Zohar, and to connect us to the light not only of the Zohar but also of the characters and the energies and forces and vibrations that are mentioned in this book, and to connect us to the light that this book has, and at the same time, like I also mentioned in the first 2 lessons, when we study the book of Zohar, we have to make sure that we are not studying it for the sake of knowledge. We are supposed to study the book of Zohar for the sake of connecting to the light, and through that connection to the light, connect us as well to the other souls of humanity that form the one collective soul called Adam Harishon. Okay, so that's basically should be the whole Kabbalah, the whole intention. Yes, you will learn, you will acquire knowledge, uh, but that's not the goal of the Zohar. The goal of the Zohar is that in basically to use the book as a way to connect to the light, and also as a way to connect to other souls, to those souls that form Adam Harishon, to other human beings. Okay, so let's start with the prayer. Ruler of the universe and master of all masters, the Father of mercy and forgiveness, we thank you, our God, and the God of our forefathers, by bowing down and kneeling, that you brought us closer to your Torah and your holy work, and you enable us to take part in the secrets of your holy Torah. How worthy are we that you grant us with such big favor, which is the reason we plead before you that you will forgive and acquit all our sins, and that they should not bring separation between you and us. And may it be your will before you, our God and the God of our forefathers, that you will awaken and prepare our hearts to love and revere you. And may you listen to our utterances and open our closed hearts to the hidden studies of your Torah. And may our study be pleasant before your place of honor, as the aroma of sweet incense, and may you emanate to us light from the source of our soul to all our being. And may the sparks of your holy servants, through which you reveal your wisdom to the world, shine. May their merit and the merit of their fathers and the merit of their Torah and holiness support us, so we shall not stumble through our study. And by their merit enlighten our eyes in our learning, as it is stated by King David, the sweet singer of Israel. Open my eyes so that I may see wonders from your Torah. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. May the utterances of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Okay, so now that we have done this and started with this intention, let's try to keep this intention as we continue studying the Zohar, connecting through the light. Okay, connection with the light, not connection with knowledge. Knowledge will come. It's part. It's like something that you cannot basically stop from happening. You will have that knowledge, but the most important part is the work, not the acquiring of the knowledge, but the connection to the light. Okay, so let's start with the Zohar. So last time, like I mentioned, we were studying the Lilly in the last lesson, and we talk about the 5 rigid leaves, which are basically 5 partzufim, and that within them they have all the sefirot. Okay, so we have Keter, Chokmah, Bina, Serampin, Amalchut. Okay, and get used to know them by also this name. Keter is Galgalta, Chokmah is Ab, Bina is Sag, Serampin is Ma, and Malchut is Bone. And these names that you see, they're based on the numerical value of the filling of or the expansion, I should say, the expansion of the names of God that you see here below. The numerical value of those, the addition of those letters, it's what's giving the name of those parsuf, okay, parsufim. Then we mentioned that this parsuf, when we're talking about when we're talking about the ascension of the worlds, which and here in the Zohar is not going to mention ascension of the world, but it's going to talking about the work or process that is happening. But what you need to understand is that in Bina, we have Arik and Pin. Arik and Pin is basically Keter. Abba, like we mentioned, is Chokmah. Ima is Bina. And then Serampin has Chesed, Geburah, Tifaret, Nesachot, and Yesod. And Nukva is Malchut, okay? What we're going to find is that we're going to have Arik and Pin by itself, and then something called Avi. Avi is basically an acronym for Ava and Ima. Ava ve'Ima. Then Serampin, of course, is going to be these 6 sefirot, right? And Nukba is Malchut. But then we're going to have also something called Zon. And when we mention Zon, is that we're mentioning Serampin together with Nukba. So Zon is basically Serampin and Nukba. The other thing that we mentioned, let me move it out over here, is that Bina is divided into 2, okay? It's divided into what is called Nikve Enaim, or pupils, and also is the below, or the part below, the 7 sefirot below, because we're talking about the 10 sefirot of Bina. They're divided into 2, into Gar and Sag, Gimel Rishonim, which is the 3 upper ones, and then the Zayin Tachtonim, the 7 lower ones of Bina. And the 3 upper ones are going to be called Nikve Enaim, or pupils, and then the 7 lower ones are going to be called Ozen, or ear. And the 7 lower ones of Bina are basically what is called vessels of reception in Bina, okay? And the 3 upper ones are going to be above those vessels of reception, so they're considered basically vessels of bestowal. And the reason is that we are using these names of forehead, eyes, pupils, ears, nose, and mouth, is basically to utilize the language of branches. So get used to the language of branches. Branches means that we're using language that we know in order to explain concepts that cannot be explained otherwise. So when we say pe, which is mouth, we're not really talking about a mouth, all right? We're talking about a kind of action similar to what we have in our physical body, okay? And since everything is a fractal, the body, physical body of a human being is also created and according to that blueprint, okay, that we're gonna see in creation. So keep this in mind, because then later there's a concept that is introduced, and it's the concept of Yeshut. Okay, move this to the side. Yeshut, and Yeshut is basically it's kind of like a semi partzuf, a pseudo partzuf, that is made with the 7 lowers of Bina, and is the conduit through which the light is going to go down to Zerampin and eventually reach Nukva or Malchut, okay? So keep this concept in mind. Now, one of the questions that I have from one of you was, where's when it says, the 42 matings, 42, sivugim. These 42 matings, what are they all about? If there's any way to envision those 42 sivugims in some kind of drawing or letters and things like that. And what I mentioned in one of the lessons was that the 42 sivugims are basically the following. Or Hasidim, it's the number 10, it's a full tree of life. And Yeshut, this is what you see here, it has the name of the number 32 because it includes the 22 letters and 10 atiyot, 10 points. And when we have this number 32, it actually alludes to the heart, right? Lev, because Lev has the same numerical value of 32. So basically what we're doing here is bringing Or Hasidim or using our Hasidim, the light of mercy, in order for us to bring down the light of wisdom without breaking ourselves, right? But what is the 42? 42 sivugins is basically the Yod He Vav He filled with 10 letters. And we're going to see it basically this way. Here. So, what we have is the Yod He Vav He. The numerical value is going to be another numerical value. How many letters? We got 4, right? And then it's going to be what is called expanded. And when it's expanded as Yod Ha Vav Ha, it's going to have 10 letters. Then, as these letters are expanded as well, for each letter, you got the Yod, it says Yod in here. You got Vav, it's going to say Vav in here. You got the Dalet, it's going to say Dalet here. So we're expanding this longer. You're going to have 28 letters, which equals 42. And these are the 42, or are this basically symbolizing the 42 sivugim that we're talking about. Also, it talks here about, at the end of, when we say the area with the Lilly, we're using the Sulam commentary, so it's going to be kind of different, the numerical way that we're addressing these numbers. The regular Zohar, you have volume 1, page 42a, things like that. Here we're using the Sulam commentary, so we're going to go according to what the Sulam commentary has, the numbers. So we're talking here the Lilly, item number 2, and at the end where it says, after this light was created, right, it was concealed and enclosed within the covenant that entered the Lilly and fructified. This is referred to as a fruit tree yielding fruit whose seeds is in itself, and this seed is the breed. So the fruit tree, to keep in mind, the end of the Lilly, the fruit tree is going to be seramping, right? And seramping has the seeds, and those seeds are going to be basically given through the breed, and the breed is Yesod, right? To Malchut, which is the land, right? And or in this case, the congregation of Israel as well, right? And what you need to have here in mind is the following. Get used to seeing these letters Yod and He. Get used to see the name Elohim. And also write down these 3 letters Elam, because when you unite these 2 letters, you're gonna have the name Elohim. And eventually we're gonna go to a section in which what you're gonna see is we're gonna be talking about Mi Ele, who created this, okay? And in a section called Who Created This, we're going to talk about these names specific. So start getting used to these things and write it down. One of the students said, I was just taking pictures of the screen as you were showing them. Do whatever it takes as long as you have the notes, okay? But for those of you who practice Judaism and you're doing your prayers during the day or during Shabbat, there's a prayer called Kaddish, and these 42 sivugins are implied in that prayer. And what you're going to see is the following, is that whenever we have the Veishtabach, Veishba'ar, Veishtruma, when we're saying all of them, these words, they start with Vav. Okay, and you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Vav. What is the numerical value of Vav? Is 6, right? We have 7 Vavs, and 7 times 6 is 42, right? But then again, when you count the letters of these words, it's also 42 letters. So it's implying that as you're doing that prayer and you're mentioning those praises to the Creator, what you actually need to have in mind is these 42 sivugim, these 42 connections that needs to happen in seramping and be transmitted to Malchut through Yesod. And this is, especially in Shabbat, we are considered, the people of Israel, we are considered like the female, like Malchut, right? And we need to unite with Serampim, the Hakadosh Baruch Hu, right? And through prayer, and through this, which we mentioned as well in the other lesson, through this prayer, we do this request for the light. We are basically asking for this to come to us, for these 42 sivugim, which are basically the seed that are coming to Malchut to basically fertilize our work. And at the end of the Lilly, of course, says, just as the covenant is sown by 42 matings or sivugims, from that same seed, so the engraved and holy name is sown by the 42 letters that describe the works of creation. Okay, so we already saw that when we're talking about the in the 42 matings. The Bereshit bara Elohim et Hashamayim et Haaretz. There are 42 matings in there. Okay, the 42 letters. Okay, so. Keep that in mind, make notes, and that's basically how you envision the 42 matings. Yod and the Vahe, 4 letters, expand the name, it's going to give you 10, then expand those, that expansion, and it's going to give you 28 letters equals 42, and that is implied by, or is implied in the prayer of the Kaddish. Alright. So now we're going to start a new section. This section is called the flower buds. The flower buds, just to, it's not a long section. It consists of 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs basically, and it's not as hard to understand as the Lilly, because the Lilly has a lot of mystery in it, a lot of kind of like symbolism that you need to understand before then you go to the flower buds. And the flower buds, the first thing you need to know is the flower buds are the sefirot. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about. The flower buds are the sefirot. So let's start reading. In the beginning, Rabbi Shimon opened. The flower buds appeared on the earth. The flower buds refer to the act of creation. When had they appeared on the earth? On the 3rd day, as it is said, and the earth brought forth grass. That was when they appeared on the earth. The time of pruning doves has come, alluding to the 4th day, when the pruning of the tyrants took place. The voice of the total dove refers to the 5th day, where it is written, let the water swarm, so as to produce offspring. It is heard refers to the 6th day, where it is written, let us create man. And there it is said, all that the Lord has spoken we will faithfully do. In our land refers to the day of Shabbat, which represents the land of life, the world to come. So remember that we mentioned that they are Chesed, Geburah, Tifaret, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Those are considered the 6 days of creation, and the 7th day, which is basically Malchut. In this case, Malchut is the land. Okay, so Malchut is the land, and that's what the Zohar is mentioning here. So let's dissect, this paragraph here a little bit. So, in the beginning, it says, Rabbi Shimon quoted the verse, the flower buds appear on the earth. The flower buds refer to the act of creation. And this is the 3rd day, basically, appears on the earth. The earth, as we mentioned, is the Nufa. When? On the 3rd day. And what is the 3rd day? So the 3rd day is basically Tifaret, And this is where the first and second day come together in the middle line, called Tiferet, okay? And the earth were brought forth. Since then, they have been seen on the earth. The time the singing bird, also pruning, so it's the time of pruning, so singing and pruning will come, alludes to the fourth day, which is Hod des Ramping. The pruning of the tyrants took place. Therefore, on this day, it is written, let there be luminaries. Before I continue with to explain the let there be luminaries, when he said the time on the fourth day, the fourth day is basically, you go over here, it's Netzach, right? It's Netzach. So when he says, that is basically destroying the tyrants, remember, we got Hesed, Geburah. So we got judgment, right? Mercy and judgment. They come in balance, but then there's more mercy with Netzach. So it's like the pruning of the tyrants. So it's a more protection basically against Tumah, against the impure, right? And therefore of this day it is written, let there be luminaries, with the letter Vav missing from the word luminaries, right? The word luminaries, when written without a Vav, can be read as a curse. So when we mentioned in previous lesson where it says, let there be luminaries, it is a time when the time when the nine lower ones, the time when we're talking about the nine lower ones, we're talking about the nine lower ones that we mentioned before, that basically is like adding amping is not there. So we're talking about from Chokmah all the way down. Fell below Keter, while Keter stayed in Atzilut due to Malchut being diminished. And when was Malchut diminished? It was diminished when he says, let there be luminaries, who was created at the same and equal brightness and height of Seramping, because Malchut could not receive the light of Chokmah properly, like it was supposed to. So it needed to receive the light of Chokmah. So how are you going to receive that light of Chokmah? By being diminished, by being below Seramping. And that way Seramping can become the conduit of that, or the conduit. When I say conduit, keep in mind the conduit is going to be Or Hasidim, the light of mercy. So in order to receive the light of mercy, it needs to go through that conduit called Seramping, using the light of mercy, or Hasidim. And Or Hasidim is basically the will to bestow. Okay? Will to bestow. So what we're gonna see is that now at this moment, Malchut is not built by its own properties, but by the properties of the sefirot Hod and Netzach of Seramping. Right? Hod and Netzach are here, and when they unite in the middle. And then the middle we're gonna see is Yesod, and Yesod is the one that is gonna then balance those two forces in order to bring that light down to Malchut. And then it says, and the voice of the total dove is basically Netzach of Seramping, right? And Malchut receiving from Netzach through Yesod. Then it says, this refers to the fifth day, which is Netzach, about which is written that the water swarm, so they can produce offspring. Is heard, when it says is heard, this refers, to the sixth day, which is Yesod of Seramping, okay? And then it says, let us make man. And this is something we explain, that man was made on the sixth day, right? And before man was supposed to reach Shabbat, that day man was supposed to basically eat from the tree of life first, and then from the tree of knowledge. But because of the will to receive a man ate from the tree of knowledge before eating from the tree of life, and that's why man now knows, death. And we're gonna see this. Let us make man while they're on the mountain, on Mountain Sinai. When Hashem asked Israel about the Torah, they say, "We will do and obey." And our land refers to the day of Shabbat, which represents the land of life, which is the world to come. Okay, and so when it says, we will do and we will obey, which is compared, to let us make man. When man was created as one being. It wasn't separated, right? It was one whole soul. As we see here, when man was created, everything was in Atzilut, right? And Atzilut, Adam Harishon was created, the first Adam, and in there, Adam later started calculating with its vessels of receiving pleasure for its own sake, and that's when the whole system falls down, including Adam Harishon, to the place of the Cliffot. Okay, and what we're gonna see is that this is basically the story how we can go back to that state in which Adam Harishon was in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden. Our work is basically to start elevating these worlds once again, and this is what the Zohar is trying to talk to us about. So this is so when it says to the land of life, this is when Nukva raised to Bina in similarity in form. Okay, so Nukva is here, and if we're gonna look at Bina, Bina basically is gonna be Ava Veima here, right? So Nukva is here. When Nukva goes to that level of Avi, Ava Veima here, that's when we are in the land of life. That is the world to come, the world of basically when the whole system is gonna be in the Olam Atzilut, or the world of Atzilut. Now, when this paragraph of the Zohar said, that Israel, when they were asked in Mount Sinai about Hashem, about the Torah, they said, "We will do and obey," or "We will do and we will hear" later. Do is basically the secret of Malchut, and here is the secret of Binah. Okay, and so keep that in mind. When it says, "We will do," that means that is Malchut, and "we will hear" is Binah, which sounds kind of contradictory. You should hear first what you're gonna do, and then do what you heard, right? And here you do first, and then you hear, because we're working from down up. Now we need to unite as one again, but below. We're now, in this area down here, the Mador Klipot, and we need to raise Adam Harishon all the way back again to the word of Hatzilut, which is the word to come. Then it says another explanation. Another explanation is that the flowers are the patriarchs who came, or to come to mind, and came into the world to come, where they were hidden. They emerged from there secretly and hid themselves within the true prophets. Joseph was born, and they concealed themselves in him. When Joseph entered the Holy Land, he revealed their presence, and then they appeared on the earth and were seen there. When are the patriarchs seen? When the rainbow is seen in the sky. It is when the rainbow is seen that they are revealed. And at that moment, the time of pruning has come. This means that the time has come to eradicate the wicked from the world. Why were their wicked safe until now? Because the flower buds can be seen in the earth. And if they could not be seen, the wicked will not have remained in the world, and the pre-Messianic world will not be able to exist. So this is a little bit, about uh, a little bit about Noah, So if you read Parsha Noah, you're gonna see that this is where a covenant, basically, another brit, right? And a very important covenant is brit. It says yesod, and this is what it's telling us here about this light, how it manifests itself into seven. In the physical realm, we have the rainbow, real rainbow, which is used, as a symbolism to explain the spiritual concept. And we know that the rainbow can only happen, first of all, if it's cloudy and rainy. And in Kabbalah, water and rain, right, signifies mercy. And the rain is actually, that upper water that those prayers answered. And in order for these seven colors to manifest in physical reality, the sun basically is kind of like opposite to the rain and manifests this prism of colors, in the sky. And it's beautiful, but as we know by science, and everything, there are more than seven colors in the rainbow that we see in physical reality. But here, we use that symbolism of the physical rainbow in order to explain, like I mentioned before, spiritual matters. So let's dissect this paragraph. Another explanation is that the flowers are basically, they surround Haggad on Serampin. Haggad is basically, go here, Haggad is basically Chesed, Geburah, and Tifaret. Okay, the flowers are the patriarchs who came to thought or mind and came into the world to come. Okay, the thought or the mind came to mind is basically Chokmah. So when we see that when it says the mind is Chokmah. Okay, and the word to come, we know that it's Bina, but it's Silut. This is in this process right here where it says and came into the world to come, namely Bina, where they were hidden. So what you need to think is like the patriarchs were hidden. The patriarchs were inside a womb. Okay, so we're gonna call that stage the prenatal development of Serampin, when ascends to Abba Ve'ima, and this is called in Hebrew Ibbur, okay? Ibbur, which is conception, right? Now, they emerged from there secretly and hid themselves among the true prophet. Now, this is a different state. This state is called the state of Gadlut, which is smallness. And we talked about Gadlut and Gadlut in previous lesson, okay? Now, Joseph, which is Yesod of Gadlut, right? With the patriarchs in the beginning, right? They were in Abi, but now there's an extinction, right? It's still growing and growing. Now we're in Yesod, in Gadlut, and they hid him. When Joseph entered the Holy Land, meaning that Malchut separates from Serampin and become the Holy Land, right? He revealed the presence, and then they appear on the earth, and we're seen there. Okay. So this is a state of Gadlut, a state of the state of Gadlut of Serampin, basically. And what are they seeing? When the rainbow is seen in the sky, because when the rainbow, which is Serampin, is seen, then they appear. And at that moment, the time of pruning has come. This means that this is the period to cut the wicked from the world. But why were the wicked saved? Because the flowers appear on the earth. The light of Chokmah is revealed through the colors of Serampin, right? If they have not been already appeared so long ago, the wicked, right? will not have remained on earth, and they will have been destroyed just like it happened in the time of Noah, right? But because of this covenant, they are not killed. Now, it says that the patriarchs, who come to mind, which is Chokmah, came into the world to come. So the patriarchs are basically Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So those are the patriarchs, okay? This is Hagat, the Seraphim. Then after that, they were basically on that prenatal development, which is Ibbur. Then after that, they emerge there secretly and hid themselves among the true prophets. So this here then is manifested below in Nesachot and Yesod as Moshe, Aharon, and Joseph, right? And then mentions Joseph, which is Yesod in the Gadlut of Serampin, when he's ready to give basically to Malchut, okay? So basically we have these three patriarchs, then they manifest as well through the prophets, okay? So what we see is that we need to understand, like I said, this is related basically with when we mentioned the rainbow, is that when you read the parsha of Noah, the rainbow is the right line, and it's manifested through the patriarchs and the prophets. There's basically 7 colors of sefirot, and it's called, and this is throwing there, some heavy words, Mochin of Hayah. Hayah is one of the levels of our soul, and Mochin is basically the high, the brains, basically, which is Chokmah and Bina of Hayah. So you got Nefesh, Ruach, Neshamah, and Hayah, and then Yenikah, which is the 5th. Well, we're talking about Hayah. So this is getting basically the Ava Ve'ima of Hayah, which is from top down, the second and of the highest levels, okay? And like I said before, we're studying the Zohar. Things you may not understand may come later you can understand that probably later and things like that, but for now, just keep in mind that you don't have to understand everything, right? So, okay, so let's have a little bit of understanding of what we have here. So what we see here is the development of Serampin, right? It's telling us how what we learn in the Lilly, how is the process happening, how there are different stages in which Serampin is going to become the conduit to send the light. And like we've seen, there are 3 stages. One is called Ibbur, the other one Yenikah, and the other one Mochin. Ibbur is basically basically an embryo, like if you were inside the womb, and that is considered Nefesh in Chokmah, Bina, and that. Okay. Then the next state is called Yenikah, which is a state of basically like nursing, in which you're like still small, right? And in there, what we see, we're gonna see the light of Ruach in Chokmah, Bina, and that, and the light of Nefesh in Hagat, which is Chesed, Geburah, and Tifaret. Okay, so we have Nefesh in the 3 upper ones, and then we have we got Ruach in the 3 upper ones, and then and that's including that, okay? When I say 3 upper ones, I'm not counting Keter. We're saying Chokmah, Bina, and Chabad. And then Nefesh is going to be in Hagat, which is Chesed, Geburah, and Tifaret. Then when he says Mochin, when it acquires Mochin, the brains, right? Which is a state of Gadlut, a state in which at this moment, Joseph is born, or Yesod, it's manifested. You have Neshamah in Chabad, which is Chokmah, Bina, and Dat. Then Ruach is going to be in Hagat, and Nefesh is going to be in Nehi, which is Netzachot and Yesod, okay? And that's when Yesod is born, okay? So that's what you need to understand. So make sure you got that down. When the light of Hayah, remember we have Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshamah, then we have Hayah, which is the above Neshamah. When the light of Hayah enters Malchut, Malchut then becomes an independent parzuf. So when the light, it enters, this parzuf start going down and down and down, what we're gonna see is that then when Malchut is gonna receive these lights in here, and that's when Malchut becomes an independent parzuf called the Holy Land. Malchut and Serampim are face to face. And before this happened, they were in front and back, and those concepts you're gonna learn them later. I'm not gonna explain them here. But only when the light of Chokmah fills the parzuf of Malchut, the light is revealed, and that means make sure when the light of Chokmah fills Malchut, the light is revealed. In the meantime, the light is still hidden. It's still hidden here in the top. It hasn't come down here. But once you have, the light of Nefesh entering here, then the light of Ruach enters here, the Nefesh goes down, right? Then when you have the light of Neshamah entering the upper ones, then you're gonna see the light going all the way down until Malchut is filled with the lights as well. And we're gonna continue, so we can and then he continues saying, and who sustains the world and causes the patriarchs to appear? It is the voice of the children who study the Torah, and the world is sustained for the sake of these children. In deference to them, it is written, in deference to them, it is written, we will make you necklets of gold. This refers to the children, boys and young men, as it is written, and you shall make 2 cherubs of gold. So, who sustains the world is the voice of these children. And who are these children? These children are the people or those who study Torah. And what do? They actually create the sivug in a state of basically create a sivug by being or putting this parzuf face to face, panim bepanim. In that way, the light of Ruach enters, right? As we mentioned, so right now we have Nefesh only. And then the patriarchs appear, And these patriarchs then are going to send the light to the other 3 lower ones, which is the prophets. And they are the ones that are going to bring down this light that we call Hayah. And it's because of this light going down, lower and lower, is that Malchut is filled with the lights of the soul, basically, the lights of creation. So let's read the explanation from Baal HaSulam. Baal HaSulam says the children of the world are basically Mochin Dechor, which is called Panim. Mochin Dechor is brain of the back, okay? Which is called small panim, small face. Also, the children of the world as well as children, youth, and youngster, and their sivug in that state are called the voice of the children who engage in Torah. They are the total dolls of gold, and they are the two cherubim, small faces, right? Remember the cherubim were facing each other. Without which the mochin of Hayah, the mochin of this light of Hayah, which extend from the hitkalelut of the right and left, will not be received in the nukva whatsoever. So the right and the left means, the unification of Chokmah and Bina. And who is the one who sustained the world in the time of proliferation of all these klipot, right? The klipot meaning, the people that we mentioned before, that the wicked, that were supposed to be destroyed, who sustained the world at the time of the proliferation of the klipot, who have the power to destroy the world as during the time of the flood. There is no hope except by bringing down mochin of Hayah, right, in the rainbow, meaning bringing the light of Hayah into the partzufim. By that, the world will be saved. And who is the one who sustained and saved the world at that time and causes the patriarchs who caused the disclosure of the revelation of Hagat in Mochin the Rosh, in brains of the head, right? When Hagat, which is Heskeburan Tifaret, became Chabad. They became, Hod, Nesat, and Yesod. Actually, Chabad is not Hod and Nesat and Yesod. Chabad is Chokmah, Bina, and the Hayah here. The voice of the children engaged in Torah causes the mochin, the ahor, the mochin of the back, which is the voice of the children and the total dolls of gold. Okay? So the rainbow is the right line, shines through the cloud, which is the left line, and the light of Hayah can enter Marhut. Okay? And the children, they need to be nurtured with the light of Hayah. The children are in a small state, so they are in a state of only the will to receive. They still have not developed a will to bestow, and this is basically the process of how, as well. Let's talk now, about the application of this. How this actually have to do with our own personal development, spiritual development. So at first, the light is hidden. We are in the search. Like right now, probably you're watching this lesson because you're in the search. You're looking for that light that was hidden from you. And in order to do that, you need to develop something, and that is a soul. And that soul, it's what the Kabbalists call a nekudah, or a point in your heart, nekudah shebalev, and that is basically, the point in the heart is basically an embryo. It's a state of Ibbur. It's a state of basically impregnation, and that's the state the patriarchs were before they were manifested. Once you start working by studying Kabbalah, reading the book of Zohar, making, internal calculations to become a better person and connect to other people, other souls in this planet, you will then make that state of Ibbur become what is called a state of smallness, which is nurture. It's already born. Something is born. It's going to be nurtured by the light. But then eventually, from the smallness, right, this light then needs to manifest to the lower three in order to be given completely to Marhut to find the total enlightenment. That's why almost every tradition that has to do with spirituality, they use the word enlightenment, because it's about the light. It's about enlightening, basically, putting that flame in our soul, making it shine, right? So as we work, eventually we're gonna start growing and growing spiritually, and that's gonna take us into a state of Gadlut, which is greatness. That state of greatness is gonna be then the reason why we're gonna have then uh, some kind of state called Sadiq or righteous. Become righteous. That's the whole point of uh, having that as a goal in the life of a human being, become a righteous person, because that is how we become a giver. That's how we bring light to the world. We become this whole parsuf called seramping. In that way, we are becoming a tree that is bearing fruit and is gonna give its seed to the land, so all the trees can also grow, right? And that's what you need to have in mind, that you are going to work in order to become this type of conduit. So when you're reading this, don't read it, as something that is happening out there. All this is happening inside us, okay? Everything is inside us. So as we are studying the Zohar, we're going to continue studying the Zohar. Like I mentioned before, make sure you keep in mind these names of the Yohe, Elohim, and Elam, because the next section that we're going to study in our next lesson is who has created this, and we're going to study, the name Elohim and how this is very important to understand, because this is how we're going to start understanding which forces are involved in the creation. So when we see the book of Bereshit, we see 6 days and then the 7th day and things like that. Think as well as the 7 days also, the 7 days are inside us as well. 7 days of correcting something. What we're correcting in the book of Genesis, we're correcting the Shavirat Hakalim, the breaking of the vessels. But there's also a breaking of our souls, right? When Adam sinned in the Garden of Eden. So that's what we're trying to fix. We're trying to fix that so we're down here, so we can go back to the state in which we are back again in the Garden of Eden, in that state in which we were receiving the light directly from the Creator, okay? And by doing that, we're also raising the worlds into perfection, into what they're supposed to be, in where the whole system is receiving the light, and the Creator is manifesting its light like it is supposed to in perfection, okay? And we do that by, so another term, that you're gonna learn here as we study the Zohar, by similarity of form with those forces of above, okay? Which is what we're going to see. That the only way to do that is if we are in similarity of form, meaning the Creator is a giver and good that does good. We're gonna have to try to imitate and be an imprint of that, okay? Okay, so we're gonna leave it on here, and next lesson is gonna be on the section called Who Has Created These? Mi, Para, Ele. Okay? And this is gonna talk about this area here. So we were talking right about Zeramping in the form of the 3 patriarchs and the 3 prophets. Now we're gonna see how Malchut and Zeramping are gonna be interacting, and we're gonna talk then about that term zone next time. Okay? So I hope you have enjoyed this lesson and you have kept the Kabbalah, the intention, as we're studying this. And remember, it's not about knowledge, it's about the connection with the light. Knowledge will come. I mean, right now, probably you learn things that you didn't know about certain passages in the Zohar, and that's part of it. We need also to take something for ourselves, but at the same time, we have to make sure that that's not the goal. The goal is to connect with the light and other souls. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy, like I said, and then I hope you are also in the next class lesson number 4, which is going to be on the subject of who has created this. Shalom, and I'll see you next time.